Hello, loves, and welcome to Cards and Stars, the series where I ask the tarot what your astrological placements mean for you. So today we're going to talk about Mars in the 7th house, and this will be for natal placements of Mars in the 7th house, but also if you're having Mars transit your 7th house, this will apply to you as well. So whenever you have this transit, Mars moves pretty quickly, about every year and a half, so this transit comes around fairly often. This video will apply to you. So this is a fairly new channel and I would love to see it grow. So if you like content like this, if you want to see more of it, go ahead and give that subscribe button and that like button a little kiss. I'd really appreciate your support. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into this reading. So Mars in the 7th house. Now I mix a little bit of traditional and modern astrology, and there's something called accidental dignity and accidental debility. And what that means is going around the astrological wheel in your birth chart, if you have a planet that ends up in a house where it does particularly well, then that's called an accidental dignity. It's dignified by the place that it happens to fall in your chart. And the same goes for a placement that it really doesn't agree with. So this would be one of those, accidental debility. And I'm an intuitive astrologer. Mars in the 7th house, it doesn't necessarily, like, you won't find that in a book where it says that it's an accidental debility, but being that the 7th house corresponds with Libra and Venus, Mars in the sign of Libra is in detriment. So the way that I look at it is that Mars doesn't feel very comfortable in the house of partnerships. The 7th house is about marriage, one-to-one relationships, friendships. It can be business partnerships, any kind of thing where you have to relate and cooperate one-on-one with another. And then think about what Mars is. Mars is assertive, it's aggressive, it's the planet of war. It's, you know, the planet that rules the signs Aries and Scorpio. So it's, you know, really driven, where Libra and Venus are more receptive. They draw things in and relate. Mars wants to express. So instantly I can see that having this placement or having this transit, that there would be a little bit of a push-pull or a little bit of tension. And sometimes tension can be good, right? Tension can be hot, it can be sexy, especially if we're talking about the 7th house and relating. You know, if we're starting up new relationships, new friendships, whether, you know, they are a little bit more than platonic, I could see where that could really come into play and being beneficial. Certain agreements or contract negotiations, you might need a little bit of that Martian drive. It's all about balance, right? And Libra is the scales. So it's really up to Mars in this house to have a little bit of temperance of that assertive, aggressive energy in order to fulfill what it is that it wants to accomplish, right? So that's initially what I'm seeing from this placement. But now that we've talked about that, let's go ahead and shuffle up the archetypes and see what archetype comes out for Mars in the 7th house. What archetype does Mars in the 7th house signify? Oh, okay. All right, and we got the mending one. Okay, so this heart, you know, it's very relational. If you're listening on the podcast, you know, there is this mending one. It's a broken heart that's being fixed, that's in the healing process. And that can really go along with Mars in relationships. The way that Mars might express in the realm of partnerships and in marriage could lead to some heartbreak, I see, could lead to some misunderstandings, you know, or aggression, maybe not necessarily coming from the Mars person. It could be both, but also receiving aggression, that you have to kind of mend from conflicts where, in one-to-one partnerships, yeah, everything isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but it's about learning how to mend the heart. This is a heart chakra card. So learning how to be open and soften the heart, where Mars, in the house of relationships might have been burned a lot in relationships, honestly, is what I'm seeing. And learning how to maintain that sense of soft vulnerability instead of kind of building up a wall and becoming maybe rash and assertive and aggressive in relationships in order to kind of create a shield from being hurt, or even in partnerships when things haven't necessarily been fair. Libra is the scales. It also rules the Justice card in the tarot. So it's about balance and fairness, right? And if things haven't been fair, that can kind of, knock your heart. It definitely can, and make you feel like, you've been hurt in relationships, whatever kind of one-to-one relationships that you've been in. And there can be some really tenderness around the heart space and some mending that needs to be done. But the great thing about the mending one is the willingness to do the work of mending the heart. It's not, like the exiled part of yourself that isn't willing to do the work. So really, even though it is kind of a debilitated space for Mars to be in, or not such a comfortable space for Mars to be in, I can see with Mars taking on this Venusian quality that it's like, Mars being the planet of action can take action and take steps towards healing matters of the heart, which is really, really beautiful. And if you're having this transit, it might call you to do some mending and some heart chakra work and really help with some heart space opening. So with that, yeah, let's go ahead and see what comes out with your tarot cards. Well, actually, before we do that, what I want to do is, since we are looking at the 7th house, sorry, my cats are like shedding all over the place. I just cleaned this table. Excuse me. Since we're looking at the 7th house, I have a love story oracle, and I want to just pull some cards, 2 cards, to see what some of the themes of these 7th house kind of partnerships could be for Mars in the 7th house. So let's just have a look. And the first card we got is differences. So yeah, that's where some of this mending might come in, where we see these 2 matches. They're really burnt down, really burnt out and facing away from each other. And, it doesn't look like, Mars is a fiery planet, but it looks almost like, both of these fire, these matches, like the fire is dimming and it's like your inner flame is being put out. But it doesn't look like it's more one person's fault than the other, right? If we're thinking about the scales, it's like there's equal give and take here. And it could just be, like I was saying before, misunderstandings. And this card is card 24. Which reduces down to a 6, which corresponds with the Lover's card in the major arcana. So, that really does speak to a mirroring of one another, like in relationships, in partnerships, whoever you are dealing with, that, that pain could be, equal on both sides. And it could be something where, not necessarily an ending of a relationship, not all relationships last forever, but that there could be some kind of, need to come to a sort of resolution around things that have happened in the past in order to mend your heart, and then also, mend this other person's heart. Because if we're talking about a 6, a card that's a 6, and being the Lovers is a sacred mirror, right? And I think of the 7th house as a house of where we meet our mirrors, where we meet our shadow as well, because it's opposite of the 1st house of ourself. It's the 7th house of others. So we really do meet people who mirror us, that we may not recognize certain things in ourselves, and we think it's a difference, but it's actually part of ourselves that we don't necessarily recognize. So that's really aligned that card would come out. So that might be a theme that's come up in a lot of your relationships over time, is just like not being able to get over certain differences, or not being able to compromise necessarily, where differences of opinion have come in, and maybe it was really heartbreaking on both sides, because like, were it not for that, maybe things could have worked out, right? So that's just something that I'm seeing there. Let's see what else we have here. Okay. And we have chemistry. Okay, so yeah, that's something that I was seeing. It was like, it's not for lack of love, you know, that, you know, relationships might not have gone right. It's some of these differences that just couldn't be overcome for some reason. And maybe with time, maybe with more Mars in the 7th house transits, even those of you who have Mars in the 7th house natal placements, your Mars is still going to move around your chart, and it's going to come back to the place where it was at your time of birth. So you're going to have these 7th house transits of your Mars, and maybe with time, with each of those transits, it matures a little bit more, and you're able to do a lot more compromising. You know, this card, chemistry, is the 28, which reduces down to a 10. Wheel of Fortune is Jupiter. You know, it's those cycles that come into our lives that, you know, 10 is an ending and a beginning. And then it also speaks to magician energy of having everything you need to be able to create what you want to see in relationships. But having good chemistry with people, having charisma is something else that I'm seeing with Mars in the 7th house in relationships, because, you know, Mars is a planet that deals with sex and sexuality and passion, and being really, you know, I don't want to say aggressive, but very expressive towards what it desires. And that is something that is very attractive to partners, and not just in relationships, but it could be in business too, where you're not afraid to express what it is that you are really passionate about. And you're very charismatic and magnetic is what I see with this chemistry card. So let's go ahead and pull your tarot cards and see what comes out. Already done a pre-shuffle, so I'm just going to do a couple shuffles. And whoa, you got one jumper right there. Okay. Let's see what we have for you, Mars in the 7th house. I can get all these in the frame. All right, so the first card that we're going to look at is why you incarnated in this lifetime with this placement, or if you're going through this transit, why you're experiencing this transit right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, and 3 of Cups. Okay, so yeah, this really is about experiencing joy, learning how to touch in with relationships. 3 of Cups is a card of sharing in relationships that really touch your heart, with people that you care about. So it really does relate to the 7th house, even though the 7th house is one-to-one relationships, like marriage, like a one-to-one friendship. This 3 of Cups really is, you know, it is anyone that brings you those joyful moments. So it doesn't necessarily have to be 3 people. Hell, if you're poly, or you don't subscribe to traditional relationships, excuse me, that could be 3 people. It could be more than that, because, you know, not everybody is into traditional relationships. And I believe that we should be as inclusive as possible when we talk and, you know, with the tarot. So yeah, this is really about learning how to be joyful, and experience real openness, real vulnerability, with friends, with family, in any kind of relationship that you are in. And 3 is also a number of co-creation and cooperation. And that's one of the key words that's on the 7th house card, is cooperation. So really learning how to cooperate in relationships, because Mars is a planet that wants to assert its will, really act from a place of its passion, its desire, what it's determined to do. And you have incarnated with this placement, or are experiencing this transit, to kind of learn how to temper that, and to learn how to kind of what's the word that I'm looking for? To be cooperative in relationships, and not to necessarily focus so much on me, but focus on we. And also, you know, the people that you are in relationships with as well, since it's a house of mirroring, they have those lessons to learn as well through you. Like, you're a vehicle for that. So that's really beautiful, because anything in the 7th house it's not just us, you know, because our charts aren't all about us. They're about the people that are in our lives as well. So, you know, where we meet our placement of Mars in the 7th house, you know, the people that are in our lives are going to also exemplify this energy for us. And we may not see it in ourselves. We may see it more so outside of ourselves, but this is also us in the 7th house. So, you know, like I said, it's the shadow. It's the part of us that we may not necessarily recognize, but it's right in front of our face, through our relationships with other people. So the next placement that we're going to look at is the benefit of Mars in the 7th house. Okay, and you got another 3 of Pentacles, another 3, you got the 3 of Pentacles. So yeah, this is, you know, where the 3 of Cups is talking about relationships. Pentacles are earthly matters. So it is more of the business side of the 7th house and the co-creation side of the 7th house. So, you know, where there's contracts and agreements and endeavors where you want to kind of collaborate with another person, you bring your strengths and your talents and your abilities to an endeavor. And other people, or another person, they might have a completely different set of skills, but the way that you co-create together strengthens whatever it is that you're trying to build. It's like that cooperation, that sharing and blending, and the ability to really, both of you, put your desires and passions together. Whatever it is that you are doing in business or art, or, you know, whatever it is that you are doing with another person, it's like it leads to success. You know, with that Mars in the 7th house, there's a lot of chemistry there. Even though there are differences, the differences are actually strengths, because you're not coming together and doing the same thing. It's like almost like you're strong, where the other person might have, you know, not so much, you know, I don't want to say weaknesses, but, you know, you have abilities where they may not, you know, be necessarily, you know, as wise, or as, you know, that's not their wheelhouse. And the same goes for you. It's like, you know, their area of expertise isn't yours, but the 2 of you together fortify each other, and it really brings a sense of success. And you know, there are keywords on the tarot cards, and one thing it says is success and enterprise. But there's, yeah, using your talents. So that's a really big benefit for Mars in the 7th house. And also, when you have this transit, it's a really big indicator to really take action in finding someone else to co-create with and work together with, and see, you know, what can come out of it, because it probably will lead to a lot of success for you. success in business, success in contracts and agreements. And as well, you know, the pentacles can be applied to relationships as well, right? Because it's anything that's earthly matters. Relationships, we're right here on earth. So it's not just relegated to cups, but the two of these together is like a powerhouse for co-creation. And all the threes in the minor arcana are related to the Empress. Empress is also ruled by Venus. So it's about, you know, receiving and expansion. So, you know, that's really, really what it's about. So the next card that we're going to look at are the challenges that come along with Mars in the 7th house, natal in transit. Okay, and we have 6 of Cups in reverse. Okay, and this makes a lot of sense to me, because like I was saying with this mending one archetype that you have, the 6 of Cups in reverse can be a card, you know, when it's upright, it can be a card of nostalgia and looking back on happy times that you shared with another person. And the challenge might be that there was a little, you know, there were instances of differences, right? Just like with this this oracle card of disharmony, of relationships that really couldn't be reconciled, or, you know, just instances of really disharmonious relationships. Excuse me. I had to take a little break because I had a coughing fit. Yeah, I felt like all of a sudden I wasn't able to use my voice. So I don't know, drop it in the comments. Do any of you feel like there have been times that your voice has been stifled, or that you've had throat chakra blockages? Because it came on really fast and furious. Like I almost couldn't speak, and then I had to grab for water. Maybe in relationships, you felt that way, you know, that disharmony, that discord, that it came to a place maybe with these differences where it just, you know, couldn't be reconciled. And maybe that's one of the challenges, was maybe dealing with people who were very assertive, very aggressive, and, you know, being that this is the house where we meet our other, there might have been times where there was a bit of an imbalance where it's like you were trying to be very accommodating and trying to keep the harmony in relationships and just couldn't come to a resolution on certain things. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull a clarifier, but it feels like now that I said that, my throat feels much better. It's like, you know, being able to express that really did clear up what I was feeling in my throat. So there might be some throat chakra work that some of you all have to do when this transit comes up, or if you have this as a natal placement, just when, you know, you're dealing with conflict or aggression in relationships, that it might feel overwhelming to you, and you might not feel like you can use your voice to express your differences of opinion in a relationship for fear of losing it, is what I'm hearing. But yeah, let me get a clarifier. Let's see, why is the 6 of Cups in reverse here? Show me clearly. Show me the 6 of Cups in reverse. Okay, King of Pentacles. Let's see what else we have here. Temperance. Okay, and I'm gonna read this. Since Temperance came out, I always read my clarifiers in the upright, but I'm feeling this Temperance in reverse. It's like a sense of imbalance. And, you know, Temperance can be a card of really trying to make the best of a situation, like making lemonade out of lemons. And maybe the other person really wasn't trying to meet you halfway. This card is ruled by Sagittarius. And one of the lower forms of Sagittarius is that it can be very moralistic and pontificating and really like think that they know best. And you might have experienced some of that in relationships. And especially with this King of Pentacles, what I feel is like the King of Pentacles too, in its lower form, like when it's not in its highest expression, can be somebody who feels like, I am the be all end all, and what I have to say is the final word, and it doesn't matter. Like, you're not going to get a word in, you're not going to change my mind. So it might have felt like, you were being dominated in some of your relationships, and it really just led to some real wounds where you had to do some real heart mending. And in turn, as your Mars matures and as you go through these Mars in the 7th house cycles, you might have noticed, if you've already had, if you're into your middle age, or, if you're into your late 20s where you've already had your Saturn return, and you've gotten some of the wisdom from Saturn, that, you are much better able to express yourself and say what it is that you need to say as well, so that your relationships can be more balanced, and that you can feel like you have a say, and that you have a sense of stability in relationships, not just the other person. Not that you're just giving up and sacrificing so much of yourself to keep harmony in relationships, because you're a very forgiving person. You're a very, you're with this chemistry card and differences. You're willing to look at where things are different, chemistry and temperance. I'm really seeing some overlap with that, where it's like you're willing to kind of blend and alchemize and work with the differences, and maybe the other person wasn't. And it's like, as you get older, as you get more mature, you realize you don't have to give up so much of yourself, that you can be more assertive and be more aggressive, but not necessarily in a bad way. And I hate good and bad, but you can assert yourself with confidence. Mars is also, about confidence, but you can really say what's on your mind, and maybe that will free up some of that throat chakra energy that I was feeling was so blocked. But yeah, that was coming through really strongly. So I'm going to leave those right there. And the next card that we have is how you use Mars in the 7th house to your highest potential. And we have the Ace of Cups in reverse. So what I'm seeing, since you have 3 Cups cards here, and this is a house that deals with relationships, that this is going to be more about the relationship that you cultivate with yourself, and not necessarily the relationship that you have with other people. Because yes, you're still going to have relationships and deal with other people, obviously, if that's what you want. But Mars being in the house of Venus, it really speaks to, expressing love to yourself, like speaking those things over yourself and giving yourself things in relationships that you didn't get in order to mend your heart. Because this Ace of Cups is in reverse, and this is an offer of love, and what I feel like is this is an offer from the universe for you to really look at the ways that, you can give yourself more love, more tending, more mending of your heart, where it's really, might have been broken in the past, and that you've been wounded by relationships, but it's bringing you closer to yourself and that self-love that you need to give to yourself, that maybe you didn't necessarily find in relationships from the past. And that's not to say like you can't find somebody and you can't love someone else until you love yourself. I think that's bullshit. I think, we can bring ourselves into a relationship as messy as we are, in all of our fullness and all of our authenticity. And, not all parts of ourselves are easy to love, even for us, but it's more about just getting closer to the parts of yourself, all parts of yourself, and loving yourself through it is what I'm seeing, and kind of meeting yourself through relationships, but also, taking time to really consider what it is that you want. And that's going to bring you closer to the relationships that reflect your truest self, your highest self, and the love that you deserve from other people. But that's not to say, like, if you don't love yourself perfectly, that, the relationship of your dreams is not going to come along and that, nobody's going to love you, because I don't believe that at all. But we all do deserve to give ourselves love and care. So that is a way that you can use this to your highest potential, is to bring yourself closer to the love that you want for yourself, from yourself. So the next card that we're going to look at is the ways that you may work against yourself. And we have the Hangman. So this is really obvious to me. So with Mars in a, Venusian house, what this says to me is that you could be very self-sacrificing in relationships, just like I was saying with the Six of Cups. It feels like, in the past, and this could go back to childhood, because that's one of the key words on the Six of Cups card, that you could have been really steamrolled in relationships, that if there were any differences, you might have been kind of talked over. And I know I said in the beginning that, these matches, they looked like, equally mirroring each other. But, now that I'm looking again, it's like one of them is more bent over than the other one. And this, this one that it's like it's holding its head lower, this could be you, that could be holding themselves in a kind of stance of feeling shame, or, someone imposing those feelings of shame on you that you may not have felt before, and feeling like you have to give up parts of yourself. The Hangman is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is very foggy. It's like Neptunian energy in the 7th house means that we can't always see people clearly for who they are. We might idealize a situation or a person when actually the evidence of who they are is right in front of us. And that's not your fault. People can really snow us for a long time, and they can really cover over what it is that they're trying to accomplish in a relationship. If they're trying to get over on you, they can use really pretty language. That's something else that I relate to Neptune. But their actions speak so differently, right? Mars rules action. We're talking about the 7th house of others, that it doesn't align with their words, but it's like almost like you can believe their words more than their actions, because it's easier to see the good, and trust the good. But also, the ways that you can work against yourself with this Hangman are also ways that you can free yourself, because the Hangman speaks to seeing things from a different perspective. So also using this Hangman energy to consider, to kind of allow yourself to turn upside down and see things from a different perspective. And you see how the imagery is lining up with this Ace of Cups. Like the figure in the Ace of Cups is also upside down, just like the figure that's hanging in the Hangman, that, seeing yourself almost and seeing your heart healing the way that, you love yourself from a new perspective in this Ace of Cups is really where the Hangman can benefit you. There's an element of patience that comes from the medicine of the Hangman. So really waiting for this illumination and exploring the ways that, you can not necessarily sacrifice parts of yourself, but the ways that you can maybe give over some of your time, dedicate more time to yourself, to reflect on the ways that you will, what you will and won't accept from your relationships. And that doesn't mean that you're always going to do it perfectly. No one will. No one's perfect. But the Hangman comes right before the Death card, where we're really going through a transition of putting things on the fire, of letting go of old ways of being and old cycles in our lives that don't serve us anymore. And that could be, old archetypes, of people that we are usually attracted to in relationships, and, kind of introspecting and reflecting on, what it is that we actually don't want to see anymore based on what we've already experienced. So it's it's basically like the Hangman is saying, like, don't give yourself away, but use this time to really reflect on what it is that you do want to see in your relationships, where you're not sacrificing yourself and giving up pieces of yourself, and it's wearing down your self-esteem, because you deserve more than that. You deserve what Neptune truly represents, which is a higher octave of Venus. It's that universal love. It's someone who will love you unconditionally, in all of your messy parts. Just what I was saying with this Ace of Cups in reverse, like, not just loving the parts of you that are, like, you know, easy and beautiful and all the things that, you know, people usually say are, you know, defining qualities, or are, what am I trying to say? That are, you know, the typical loving qualities that we look for, but the things that, you know, make you uniquely you. And, you know, we all have parts of ourselves that are messy as hell, you know, but the right person will love you through that, and will love you for your quirks, and, you know, those things that, you know, are just so different about you, is what it is that I'm seeing with this Hangman. So the last card that we're going to look at is the overall advice for working with this energy. And that is the Four of Cups. So the Four of Cups, to me, even though here the key words are yearning and disillusion and boredom, what this tells me is just, you know, the overall advice for this is being discerning in relationships. This card is ruled by the moon in Cancer. So it's like really letting your heart lead the way. And it's like, this person in the card is really focused on these three cups, and these three cups could represent past relationships that might not have gone well, right? You know, these three cups could have been this Three of Cups that is your first card in the spread. But here's the universe offering you a better cup, a more, you know, it's a more gilded cup. It's, you know, got a, you know, it's highlighted by like a sun-like figure with a cloud behind it. Like it's almost being exalted by the universe. Like, here's a better offer for you. And the advice is to really turn your head and not focus on necessarily so much what didn't go right in the past, you know, and wanting and yearning for what didn't go right in the past, like those unhealthy relationships that really didn't reflect what is highest and best for you, but setting standards for yourself that really reflect who you are as the beautiful reflection of the divine that you are. Because the universe is saying with this cup that you deserve better. You deserve someone who reflects the best in you. And, you know, your goal, your true purpose with this Mars in the 7th house is to turn your head and see that, to not look away, and to trust in the universe that you deserve that. So that is really, really beautiful. And I'm definitely going to take this advice for when Mars transits Capricorn again, because that happened for me earlier this year. Just, you know, as an aside, Capricorn is my 7th house and Mars went retrograde there. So Mars did not go retrograde there. Sorry, forget that. Mars is going retrograde in Gemini at the end of the year. Venus went retrograde there, but Mars kind of teamed up with Venus that had gone retrograde there in the 7th house. Excuse me for getting that mixed up, but that's definitely a lesson that I needed. So thank you so much for the person who requested this video, because I'm definitely going to take this away, you know, for myself as well. And I hope that, you know, you take the medicine of this tarot with you. But now we're going to jump into pulling some more oracle cards and see what else they have to say. So let's grab those and see. Yeah, it's like every reading I do, I feel like I learn something new as well. So here we go. We have vertigo. Whatever you choose will be correct. Okay, and vertigo speaks to me of, again, like being off balance, feeling like someone is throwing you off your balance. But if you're choosing yourself, is what I'm seeing, whatever you choose will be the right thing. If you're choosing from your heart, if you're choosing from a place of working from your heart space, you know, and working on from a place of self-love, then you really can't choose wrong. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, and here we go with the mending one. This goes perfectly with that. Another 3 card that corresponds with the Empress. Empress, I can't speak today. Cleanse and restore yourself. The mending one, mending your heart. Really allowing and giving yourself time. You know, and in that, it might feel like a sacrifice to reflect on the ways that you want to restore a sense of self-love, restore your heart space where it might, you know, have been felt really broken by some of your past relationships. And since we are looking at Mars, let's grab the Mystic Martian Oracle and see what else comes out here. I just think it's fun to use these themes. Okay, and card 23, Vegans, Solitude, Independent, Peace. Okay, and that to me really speaks to protecting your peace and going into periods of solitude when you need them, especially in periods where you've really dealt with some aggression or betrayal or hurt in relationships, that you deserve to protect your peace. You deserve a little bit. You definitely deserve independence if that's what you're looking for, that you don't need anybody to tell you that you need them in order to survive or to rely on to take care of you. And you deserve moments of solitude that feel recharging and replenishing. So yeah, that's a really beautiful message. Let's see what else we have. Okay, and we also have tall whites, uncertainty, distrust, guarded. So this might be the type of relationship that you've dealt with in the past that you no longer want, you will recognize after you've done some heart mending, and you might already be on your way. And I see also on the flip side of this, the advice is, not to become overly guarded and distrustful in relationships just because of what has happened in the past, that you still deserve to, have that sense of vulnerability about you. And that's where the mending comes in, so that you can still be soft and that you can, with this uncertainty, you can trust yourself, so that if it does seem like anybody that, is new in your life feels untrustworthy, that for sure you can trust you and that you don't have to worry about necessarily what, anybody else, this other person is saying or, what they're doing. Because if you have the feeling that something is not right, that uncertainty speaks volumes, and, you can trust yourself enough to know when it's time to move on or that something isn't right for you. And that's all you need to know. Like that's all they need to know, is like, if you want to move on, they don't need anything else from you. You don't owe anybody your love, especially if they're not giving back to you the same level of devotion. And I can see that you're quite devoted in your relationships. And the Six of Cups, sixes are equal give and take, which speaks to, not things not being equal and on level footing in your relationships historically. And that's something that, you don't want going into your future. You want to feel a sense of independence and peace, and not like you always have to have a wall up, worried about what this person, whoever they may be, in friendships, in, romantic relationships, in business relationships, what they're going to do next that might hurt you. So that's really important. Let's go ahead and grab some more oracle cards and see what else has for you. Okay. I'm just going to take this one that's on top. We got divine flow. Eventually, one sublime desire takes precedence over all others, to follow the Tao, the divine flow, at all costs. Okay, so this to me is the same thing as like protecting your peace, you know, of really being in your own flow, the flow of, you know, your divine timing, what it is that you want, and not giving away your energy to people that don't give you the same level of consideration back. So let's grab one more. I kind of wanted to jump. Let's see what it says. Okay, loss. Sometimes you learn true offering through loss. You make a passionate invitation for love to take over and bring her own plan instead of the ego's. Okay, and I feel like you've learned a lot through relationships that, you know, have not worked out. And I think that with each of those lessons that you've taken away, especially with this Four of Cups, it's like each of these cups being a lesson learned in relationships, that you get closer to what it is that your heart wants, rather than, you know, what your ego, and everyone has an ego, right? That's totally natural. We're all human beings, but it's like, when I think of ego, I think of Mars and I think of the sun. So it's like not thinking from a place of, you know, well, I've been done dirty in the past, or like this has happened to me, so I'm going to, you know, behave this way, or, you know, I'm not going to give this person a chance. That it's kind of like through loss, you're learning how not to close yourself off just because of things that have happened in relationships, but how to keep your flame lit, unlike these matches that have gone out, or, you know, not to let anybody put your fire out, your lust for life, that you can still maintain your joie de vivre, you know, even though, you know, you may still experience loss in the future. Not all relationships are meant to last, and not all of them do last, and it really sucks. It hurts a lot. But in that, there are lessons, and a lot of those lessons are, you know, bring us closer to learning about ourselves, and, you know, we have an opportunity to really heal and do more inner child work with each experience. Not to say that, you know, romanticizing pain, not at all, but it just, you know, it's an opportunity to keep mending your heart. Let's see what else, what other oracle cards we have for you. All right, so we got I am hopeful. So yeah, like, stay hopeful about relationships. Keep the faith about yourself, because you're a wonderful person and you deserve, you know, to have an open heart, to not let loss close you down. Let's see. I am beautiful. Yeah. So if anybody has made you feel less than in relationships, has not made you feel beautiful, has not shown you a reflection of who you truly are as a reflection of the divine, as a beautiful soul, this confirmation from the universe and from your guides that you are beautiful, and it doesn't matter what you look like. We are all beautiful in our own way. And you know, that doesn't even mean having to be conventionally attractive, but even, you know, our outward beauty. Like, it doesn't matter if you're overweight. It doesn't matter if you don't have perfect skin. It doesn't matter if, you know, one hip is higher than the other. Hell, I have 2 different size feet, and, you know, I'm learning to love myself. And, you know, we are all beautiful is basically what I'm saying, inside and out. And we have to, like, really challenge those beauty standards and recognize the beauty in ourselves whenever we get the opportunity. And lastly, you have I can change my thoughts. So yeah, this is really relates to the Hangman of, you know, reflection and a different perspective, and a different perspective on relationships and your relationship to yourself. But that you can remain flexible and open, you know, and that you're beautiful and remain hopeful, that you can replace some of those defeating thoughts with more positive thoughts, with less challenging thoughts. So, you know, I think that's really beautiful. And since we got this, I can change my thoughts, I'm going to go ahead and get an oracle. It's the Essential Oils Oracle, and it has some reframing thoughts. So I'm going to cut away real quick, and I will be back with those oracle cards just to give you a couple and see what comes out. Okay, so I'm back. So I didn't want to leave it there when we got such a powerful card at the end. These are really good for some trigger statements, and then what you can replace those trigger statements with. So let's see what comes out. Oh, just got a bunch flew out. Let's try that again. Messages from Mars in the 7th house. This has been a really powerful reading, you guys. Okay. Let's see. We got empowered. Trigger statement, I don't want to be here. True statement, I am exactly where I need to be. You are ready to allow the energy from the divine and Mother Earth to fuel you as you fulfill your potential here. Okay, so you have lots of potential. And maybe this mending heart is like you're mending, and you are maybe like a very chironic figure. Like you are the wounded healer that helps other people in turn heal their wounds around some of these relationship issues. All right, and we have peaceful. And look, all of your cards are green, so this is real heart chakra work. Peaceful. My life is a trigger statement. My life is a mess. True statement. I find stillness within. You guys, I am so freaking tongue-tied. I'm sorry. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. Okay. Meeting our shadow in the 2nd house, as within, so without. And, you know, being a mirror. Go within to find peace there, and your life will reflect that. So yes, don't let anybody steal your peace. And acceptance, trigger statement, we must remember. True statement, I am free of the habits that do not serve me. Lay down the armor passed down to you from your family. Okay, these could be family relationships as well. Release habits that are not serving you and forgive on behalf of generations past. And even though it says forgive, I want to say you don't have to forgive anybody who has hurt you if it doesn't feel right to you. That comes with time. And it also, you know, if it never comes, that's okay too. That you can come to a place of acceptance, but cheap forgiveness, it never works. And, you know, just forgiving somebody because you feel the pressure to is never going to work. So, you know, if you've been in relationships and people have pressured you to forgive and move on, I would invite you to reconsider and just work on your inner peace. And if you feel like one day you can get to a place that you forgive those that have really wronged you and hurt you, that's beautiful. But don't beat yourself up if you can't. And I'm going to leave it there, okay? That's all I'm seeing for you, Mars in the 7th house. Make sure to leave a comment letting me know what resonated for you. And also let me know what placements you'd like to see next. I'm going to get to them all, but I don't want to keep you waiting if there's one you really want to see. And thanks so much for being here. So again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel. I really would love to you know, see it grow. It's really small right now, but I really think that this work could touch a lot of people. And I appreciate anything that you could do to help this channel grow. But hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss any of my future videos. Stay safe, be gentle with yourselves, and I will see you again soon, okay? Bye, loves.